She couldn't perform her bedroom duties adequately after their wedding. He divorced her not knowing it was a medical condition and was already pregnant. "Mommy, is that man staring at us?" Lily tugged at her mother's sleeve, her curious blue eyes fixed on the tall figure across the garden. Olivia Reeves felt the air vanish from her lungs as she turned. 5 years dissolved in an instant. There he stood, Lucas Bennett, looking even more handsome in a tailored tuxedo than he had in her memories. The same strong jawline, the same piercing blue eyes that had once looked at her with such love, now wide with shock. "Olivia." His voice carried across the wedding venue, causing heads to turn. Is she?" Her hands trembled as she gripped her daughter's shoulders protectively. "We need to leave. Now." "But why?" Lily's innocent question hung in the air. "Who is that man?" Before she could answer, a slender woman in an elegant dress appeared, linking her arm through Lucas's. "Olivia, you came. Lucas has been wondering if you would." Olivia's world tilted on its axis as the horrible reality crystallized. She was face to face with her ex-husband and his bride-to-be. The same man who had walked away from her 5 years ago without knowing she was carrying his child. A child who now stood beside her, with her father's unmistakable blue eyes. Have you ever kept a secret so long that revealing it could shatter multiple lives at once? What would you do if fate forced your hand in the most public, painful way possible? Today's story explores exactly that impossible situation, when a single mother comes face to face with her past at the worst possible moment. If you've ever wondered how one choice can change everything, stay with me for this heartbreaking tale of secrets, betrayal, and the lengths we go to protect those we love. The invitation had arrived on a Tuesday, its heavyweight cream envelope standing out amid the bills and junk mail cluttering Olivia's kitchen counter. The return address made her heart skip a beat, Lucas Bennett. She stared at it for several minutes before finding the courage to slide her finger beneath the seal. "What's that, Mommy?" Lily asked, looking up from her breakfast cereal, milk dribbling down her chin. "Just mail, sweetheart," Olivia replied, quickly tucking the envelope into her pocket. At 4 years old, Lily was at that stage where everything required an explanation, and this particular piece of mail would require more explanation than Olivia was prepared to give. "Can we go to the park after school?" Lily asked, mercifully distracted by more important matters to a 4-year-old. "Of course," Olivia promised, wiping milk from her daughter's chin. "Now finish your breakfast, or we'll be late." The morning routine continued as normal, getting Lily dressed, packing her lunch for preschool, dropping her off with a kiss and a hug. But Olivia moved through it all on autopilot, the weight of the unopened envelope burning in her pocket. It wasn't until she was back home, alone in the quiet of her small but comfortable apartment, that she finally allowed herself to look at what Lucas had sent. Inside was a formal wedding invitation, the elegant script announcing that Lucas Bennett would be marrying Rebecca Winters at the historic Westfield estate in just 3 weeks' time. But it was the handwritten note paperclipped to the invitation that made Olivia sink onto the couch, her legs suddenly unable to support her. "Olivia, I know this might seem strange after everything, but before I start this new chapter, I feel we should finally clear the air between us. There are things I've learned that I think you should know. Please come. Rebecca knows about our history and supports this. I'm not asking for forgiveness, just closure. Lucas, closure." After 5 years of silence, after she'd discovered her pregnancy 2 weeks after he'd served her with divorce papers, after all her attempts to reach him had been blocked by his lawyer, now he wanted closure? Olivia's hands shook as she set the invitation on her coffee table. The timing was almost laughable. She had finally built a stable life for herself and Lily, a successful career as a children's book illustrator, a comfortable home, a small but supportive circle of friends. She had moved on, or at least, she'd convinced herself she had. And now this. She glanced at the framed drawings on her wall, illustrations from her most recent book, the one that had finally put her name on the map in publishing circles. The book that had allowed her to move from the tiny studio apartment where she and Lily had spent their first years together to this 2-bedroom with the bay window and the small balcony where Lily liked to keep her potted sunflowers. Everything she had accomplished, she had done on her own, without a penny from Lucas Bennett. Did she really want to disrupt the life she'd built by reopening old wounds? "I can't go," she said aloud to her empty living room. And yet, even as the words left her mouth, another thought intruded. Didn't Lily deserve to know her father? And didn't Lucas, despite everything, deserve to know about Lily? That evening, after Lily was tucked into bed with her favorite stuffed rabbit clutched in her arms, Olivia found herself pulling out the battered shoebox she kept at the back of her closet. Inside were the remnants of her brief marriage, wedding photos, love letters, and the medical records that had arrived too late to save their relationship. She picked up their wedding photo, tracing Lucas's face with her fingertip. They had been so young, so in love, so certain they had forever ahead of them. Neither of them could have predicted how quickly it would unravel after the wedding. The pain during intimacy had started almost immediately, growing worse with each attempt. Initial doctor visits had yielded only vague diagnoses, possible vaginismus, maybe stress, perhaps she just needed to relax. Lucas had been patient at first, then frustrated, eventually angry. He had accused her of deception, of not really wanting him, of using her supposed condition to avoid intimacy. By the time a specialist had finally diagnosed severe endometriosis that required immediate surgery, Lucas had already moved out, convinced that Olivia had married him under false pretenses. The divorce papers had arrived while she was still recovering from the procedure. 2 weeks later, the irony of ironies, a positive pregnancy test. Somehow, despite the endometriosis, despite the painful, limited intimacy, life had found a way. But Lucas had made it brutally clear he wanted nothing more to do with her. He changed his number. Olivia whispered to the photograph. His lawyer returned my letters unopened. What was I supposed to do? The photograph offered no answers, just Lucas's frozen smile from a happier time. The next morning, Olivia met her closest friend Maya for their regular coffee date at the corner cafe. Maya took one look at her face and set down her latte. Okay, what's wrong? You look like you've seen a ghost. Wordlessly, Olivia handed over the invitation. Maya's eyes widened as she read it. Lucas Bennett, she breathed. Well, I'll be damned. After all this time, I don't know what to do, Olivia admitted, wrapping her hands around her mug for comfort. I never thought I'd hear from him again, and now this? A wedding invitation with a request for closure? Are you going to go? Maya asked, handing back the invitation. How can I? Show up at his wedding with a daughter he doesn't know exists? That's not closure, that's chaos. Maya stirred her latte thoughtfully. Or maybe it's exactly the closure you both need. He hurt you terribly. Live, but keeping Lily a secret. That's a heavy burden you've been carrying. I tried to tell him. Olivia protested, heat rising in her cheeks. You know I did. He refused to see me, to talk to me. His lawyer said he didn't want to hear my excuses about why our marriage failed. I know, Maya said gently. But that was 5 years ago. People change. Maybe he has. And maybe he hasn't, Olivia countered. Maybe he just wants to ease his conscience before marrying someone else. There's only one way to find out. Maya reached across the table and squeezed Olivia's hand. Whatever you decide, I'm here for you. But ask yourself this. 10 years from now, when Lily starts asking more questions about her father, will you regret not taking this chance? That question followed Olivia throughout the day, lingering as she worked on illustrations for her latest book project, echoing in her mind as she picked up Lily from preschool, and haunting her as she watched her daughter build elaborate structures with her blocks, her small face scrunched in concentration, an expression so like Lucas's that it made Olivia's heart ache. Mommy, look, I made a castle, Lily exclaimed, proudly displaying her creation. It's beautiful, sweetheart, Olivia said, kneeling beside her. You're so creative. Teacher says I'm the best builder in class, Lily informed her seriously. She says I have engineer's mind. An engineer's mind, Olivia corrected with a smile. And I think she's right. Lucas had been studying engineering when they first met. He'd switched to business later, but he'd always had that precise, analytical way of looking at problems, the same focus she now saw in Lily's approach to her blocks and puzzles. Mommy, Lily asked, her little brow furrowed. Do I look like my daddy? The question caught Olivia off guard. Lily rarely asked about her father. Olivia had told her the basics, that he lived far away, that sometimes grown-ups couldn't stay together even when they made a baby, but she'd avoided details, unsure how much a young child could understand. Yes, she said softly. You have his eyes, and his smile, and his clever way of figuring things out. Will I ever meet him? The question hung in the air between them, suddenly heavy with new significance in light of the invitation sitting on Olivia's desk. "Maybe someday," Olivia said carefully. "Would you like to?" Lily nodded, turning back to her block castle. "Sally at school has 2 daddies. And Michael has a mom." Another pause, longer this time. "Very well. I'll make the necessary arrangements. The ceremony begins at 3 o'clock. Will you require accommodations for the night before?" Olivia hesitated. The Westfield estate was a 2-hour drive from her home. Attending would mean an overnight stay. "Yes, that would be helpful. Thank you." After ending the call, Olivia sat motionless at her kitchen table, the magnitude of what she had just set in motion washing over her. In 3 weeks, Lucas would learn he had a daughter. His bride would discover her soon-to-be husband had a child he knew nothing about. And Lily, innocent, curious Lily, would meet her father for the first time at his wedding to another woman. "What have I done?" Olivia whispered to her empty kitchen. But deep down, she knew. She had finally chosen truth over silence, no matter how complicated that truth might be. If you've ever had to choose between painful truth and comfortable silence, you know exactly how difficult Olivia's decision was. Sometimes the hardest choices are the ones where every option leads to someone getting hurt. Like this video if you think Olivia made the right choice, or share your thoughts in the comments below. The next 3 weeks passed in a blur of preparations and anxiety. Olivia purchased a modest blue dress for herself and a matching one for Lily, who was thrilled at the prospect of attending a real princess wedding. She practiced what she would say to Lucas, rehearsing explanations and apologies until the words lost meaning. She prepared Lily with age-appropriate explanations about meeting a special friend from Mommy's past, carefully avoiding the word father until she knew how Lucas would respond. "Is he nice, your friend?" Lily asked as Olivia packed their overnight bag the evening before they were to leave. "Yes, he's nice," Olivia said, carefully folding Lily's favorite pajamas. "Or at least, he was when I knew him. People can change, though, like how I changed from a baby to a big girl." Olivia smiled, grateful for the simplicity of her daughter's worldview. "Something like that, but grown-up changes are usually on the inside, in how we think and feel." "I hope he still likes cookies," Lily said earnestly. "I packed some of my animal crackers to share with him." Olivia's heart clenched at her daughter's thoughtfulness. "That's very kind of you, sweetheart." That night, Olivia barely slept, her mind cycling through all the possible scenarios of the coming day. Would Lucas be angry? Would he accuse her of deliberate deception? Would he reject Lily outright? Or would he surprise her with understanding, maybe even joy at discovering he had a daughter? The possibilities were endless, and each came with its own set of complications and emotions. By the time they arrived at the charming bed and breakfast near Westfield Estate the following afternoon, Olivia was exhausted from the drive and the weight of her anxiety. Lily, on the other hand, was bursting with excitement, enchanted by the canopy bed in their room and the garden view from their window. "It's like a fairy tale, Mommy," she exclaimed, twirling in the center of the room. "Can I wear my pretty dress now?" "Not yet, sweetheart. The wedding isn't until tomorrow. Why don't we explore the garden before dinner?" The garden provided a welcome distraction, as did the small duck pond where they spent an hour tossing breadcrumbs to the appreciative waterfowl. By the time they returned to their room for dinner, delivered on a tray since Olivia couldn't face the prospect of the dining room and potential questions from other guests, Lily was pleasantly tired and full of stories about the ducks. "The baby ones are called ducklings," she informed Olivia as she nibbled on her sandwich. "The lady at the pond told me. And the boy ducks have green heads." "That's right," Olivia said, marveling at her daughter's ability to absorb information. Another trait she shared with Lucas, who had always been a quick study, retaining facts and figures with seemingly little effort. After dinner and a bath, Lily fell asleep quickly, worn out from the day's excitement. Olivia stood by the window, watching darkness settle over the unfamiliar landscape. Tomorrow would change everything, for better or worse. There would be no going back to the careful life she had constructed, the protective bubble she had built around herself and Lily. Her phone chimed with a text from Maya. "You've got this. Remember, you're not doing this for him. You're doing it for Lily and for yourself. Whatever happens, you're both going to be okay." Olivia clutched the phone to her chest, drawing strength from her friend's words. Maya was right. This wasn't about Lucas, or his new bride, or even the pain of the past. This was about Lily's future, and about finally setting down the weight of silence Olivia had carried for too long. She turned back to look at her sleeping daughter, the moonlight casting a silver glow over her dark curls. "We're going to be okay," she whispered. "Whatever happens." Morning arrived with gentle sunshine and the distant sound of wedding preparations. Olivia dressed Lily first, brushing her dark curls into a neat ponytail adorned with a blue ribbon that matched her dress. The child was bubbling with questions about the wedding, the bride, the cake, everything except the groom, whose significance she couldn't yet understand. "Will there be dancing, Mommy?" Lily asked as Olivia fastened her shoes. "Yes, but we might not stay for that part," Olivia explained gently. "We're just going to watch the special moment when two people promise to love each other forever. Like in fairy tales. Something like that." Olivia smiled, though her heart was racing. "Now, remember what we talked about? Today you need to be on your very best behavior. This is a grown-up event, and we're very special guests." "I'll be good," Lily promised solemnly. "Princess Perfect. That's my girl." Olivia kissed her daughter's forehead, breathing in the sweet scent of her shampoo. "Now, let Mommy finish getting ready." Standing before the bathroom mirror, Olivia barely recognized herself. The woman who stared back looked composed, elegant even, in her fitted blue dress, her auburn hair swept into a simple updo. Only her eyes betrayed her inner turmoil, wide and apprehensive in her pale face. "It's just one afternoon," she told her reflection. "You can do this." The Westfield estate was transformed for the wedding, its sprawling gardens adorned with white roses and twinkling lights, though the afternoon ceremony would make the latter unnecessary. Guests in formal attire were already making their way toward the rows of white chairs arranged on the manicured lawn, a string quartet playing softly in the background. Olivia clutched Lily's hand tightly as they approached, scanning the gathering for Lucas. Would he see them before the ceremony? Or would their presence be a shock as he stood at the altar, about to commit himself to another woman? Ms. Reeves, a young woman in a discreet headset, appeared at her elbow. "I'm Zoe, the wedding coordinator. Mr. Bennett asked me to watch for you." Olivia's heart stuttered. "He knows I'm coming?" "Yes, he's been checking regularly." Zoe's professional smile revealed nothing about what Lucas might be thinking. "He's asked if you would speak with him privately before the ceremony. There's a small gazebo beyond those trees where he's waiting. I'd be happy to watch your daughter for a few minutes." Olivia glanced down at Lily, who was staring wide-eyed at the elaborate flower arrangements. "I can't leave her with a stranger, no matter how kind. She goes where I go." Zoe hesitated, clearly weighing her instructions against this unexpected complication. "Very well. Please follow me." As they made their way across the lawn, Olivia felt eyes following them. Did the other guests know who she was? Had Lucas shared their history with his new circle of friends? The thought made her stomach clench. The gazebo was partially hidden by flowering trees, offering a semblance of privacy amid the wedding preparations. As they approached, Olivia saw Lucas standing with his back to them, his broad shoulders tense beneath his tailored suit. "Mr. Bennett," Zoe called softly. "Your guest is here." Lucas turned, and 5 years vanished in an instant. He looked both exactly the same and completely different, still tall and handsome with those startling blue eyes, but with new lines at the corners of his mouth, a maturity in his bearing that hadn't been there before. His gaze moved from Olivia to Lily, confusion flickering across his features. "Thank you, Zoe," he said, his voice deeper than Olivia remembered. "Could you give us a moment?" As the coordinator retreated, an unbearable silence descended. Lucas stared at Lily, who had partially hidden herself behind Olivia's skirt, suddenly shy. "You brought your daughter," Lucas finally said, his tone carefully neutral. "Yes." Olivia's voice emerged steadier than she felt. "This is Lily. Lily, can you say hello to Mr. Bennett?" Lily peeked around Olivia's legs, offering a tentative wave. "Hello. Are you the prince getting married today?" A ghost of a smile touched Lucas's lips. "Something like that." His eyes returned to Olivia, questioning. "I didn't know you had a child." "There's a lot we don't know about each other after 5 years," Olivia replied, her heart pounding so hard she was certain he must hear it. "But that's why I'm here, isn't it? Closure." Lucas nodded slowly, his gaze returning to Lily. "She's beautiful. How old is she?" The moment of truth had arrived sooner than Olivia had anticipated. She had imagined easing into it, perhaps after the ceremony, when the initial shock of seeing each other had worn off. But Lucas's direct question left no room for delay. "She's 4, Olivia said quietly. "She was born 7 months after our divorce was finalized." Lucas went very still, his expression freezing as the implication of her words registered. His gaze moved deliberately between Olivia and Lily, lingering on the child's eyes, his eyes, and the familiar shape of her small chin. "That's not possible," he said finally, his voice barely audible. "We barely." "You couldn't," the doctors said. "Apparently they were wrong," Olivia replied, resting her hand protectively on Lily's head. "About some things, anyway. The endometriosis was real, Lucas. The pain was real. But somehow, despite everything, Lily happened." Lucas ran a hand through his hair, disheveling the careful styling. "Why didn't you tell me?" The question emerged as barely more than a whisper, but Olivia heard the suppressed emotion behind it. "I tried," she said simply. "You had blocked my number. Your lawyer returned my letters unopened. You made it very clear you wanted nothing more to do with me, and by the time I knew about the pregnancy, you had already decided I was a liar." The old pain surfaced briefly before she pushed it back down. "Eventually, I stopped trying." Lucas closed his eyes, his face a mask of conflicting emotions. When he opened them again, his gaze fixed on Lily. "Does she know? About me?" "She knows her father lives far away. That's all. I was waiting until she was older to explain the rest." Olivia hesitated, then added gently, "Lucas, I didn't come here to disrupt your wedding or make demands. I came because you asked for closure, and I realized you deserve to know the truth. What you do with that truth is up to you." "The truth," Lucas repeated, the words sounding hollow. "The truth is that I'm about to get married, and I just found out I have a 4-year-old daughter I knew nothing about." Lily tugged at Olivia's dress. "Mommy, I'm thirsty. Can I have some water?" The simple request broke the tension, reminding both adults of the child's presence and the limitations of what could be said in front of her. "Of course, sweetheart." Olivia looked around helplessly, realizing she had no idea where to find refreshments. "There's a refreshment table near the main house," Lucas said, seemingly grateful for the momentary distraction. "We should all go back. The ceremony will be starting soon." As they walked back toward the wedding setup, Lily between them, Olivia tried to read Lucas's expression. Shock, certainly. Confusion. Perhaps anger. But there was something else there too, a softening around his eyes when he looked at Lily that gave Olivia a flicker of hope. "Lucas," a woman's voice called from near the house. "There you are. Everyone's looking for you." A slender woman in a stylish dress, not a wedding gown, Olivia noted with relief, approached them quickly. This must be Rebecca, the bride. Olivia braced herself for hostility, for territorial suspicion. Instead, when Rebecca reached them, she offered Olivia a warm smile. "You must be Olivia. I'm Rebecca." Her gaze moved to Lily, and something flickered in her expression, surprise, then a rapid reassessment. "And who is this lovely young lady?" "This is Lily," Lucas said before Olivia could respond. She's my daughter." The words hung in the air, the first time Lucas had claimed paternity aloud. Rebecca's eyes widened, darting between Lucas and Olivia with new understanding. "I see," she said carefully. "Well, that explains quite a lot, actually." She knelt to Lily's level, her smile genuine despite the obvious shock. "It's very nice to meet you, Lily. You look very pretty in your blue dress." "Thank you," Lily replied, warming to this friendly stranger. "Are you the princess who's getting married?" Rebecca laughed, the sound slightly strained. "I'm getting married today, yes. But I'm no princess, just a regular person who found someone special to love." She straightened, meeting Olivia's gaze directly. "Lucas and I need to have a conversation before the ceremony. Would you mind waiting here? Zoe can get you both something to drink." Without waiting for a response, Rebecca took Lucas's arm and led him toward the house, their heads bent in intense conversation. Olivia watched them go, a knot of anxiety forming in her stomach. What was happening? Would the wedding proceed as planned? Or had her revelation derailed everything? "Mommy, is that lady mad at us?" Lily asked, watching the retreating couple with concern. "No, sweetheart," Olivia assured her, though she wasn't entirely convinced herself. "Grown-ups sometimes need to talk about important things in private, that's all." Zoe reappeared with glasses of lemonade, her professional demeanor firmly in place despite the obvious tension. The ceremony will be delayed by 15 minutes, she informed Olivia. Ms. Winters asked if you would please wait in the garden pavilion. She and Mr. Bennett would like to speak with you both privately. The pavilion was a charming structure overlooking a rose garden, equipped with comfortable seating and, thankfully, a small basket of children's books that kept Lily occupied while Olivia paced nervously. What were Lucas and Rebecca discussing? Were they canceling the wedding? Proceeding as if nothing had changed? What did they want from her? 20 minutes later, Lucas and Rebecca entered the pavilion together. Their expressions were serious but not hostile, and, most tellingly, they were still holding hands. "Thank you for waiting," Rebecca said, taking a seat across from Lily, who was still engrossed in a picture book. "Lucas has told me everything, about your marriage, the medical issues, the misunderstandings, and now about Lily." Olivia nodded cautiously, unsure where this was heading. "We've made a decision," Lucas said, sitting beside Rebecca. "We're postponing the ceremony." "Lucas, I'm so sorry," Olivia began, but he held up a hand to stop her. "Please, let me finish. We're postponing, not canceling. Rebecca and I still very much want to get married, but we need time to process this new reality first." He glanced at Lily, who had finally looked up from her book, watching the adults with curious eyes. "I need time to get to know my daughter, if you'll allow it. And Rebecca and I need to figure out how this changes our future plans." "Of course," Olivia said, relief washing over her. "Lily deserves to know her father. I never wanted to keep you apart. Circumstances just made it seem impossible." "I understand that now," Lucas said quietly. "I wasn't in a place to hear the truth 5 years ago. I was hurt, angry, convinced that our entire marriage had been a lie." He hesitated, then added, "I received your medical records eventually, you know, after the divorce was final. I was too proud, too stubborn to reach out then. It's one of my biggest regrets." "And now?" Olivia asked, hardly daring to hope. "Now I'd like a chance to be part of Lily's life," Lucas said firmly. "Not just a distant father who sends birthday cards, but someone who's genuinely present for her. That is, if you're willing." "I want that too," Olivia admitted. "She asks about you, you know, not by name, but about her father. She deserves answers." Rebecca, who had been watching this exchange silently, spoke up. "We'll need to figure out logistics, of course. Lucas and I live in Boston now, and you're in Philadelphia, correct?" "Yes," Olivia confirmed, impressed by Rebecca's practical approach to the situation. "But that's manageable. Weekends, holidays, we can work something out." "Exactly what I was thinking," Rebecca nodded. "And perhaps, once we've all had time to adjust, we could discuss more permanent arrangements. Lucas's company is opening a Philadelphia office next year. We had been planning to stay in Boston, but circumstances change." She smiled at Lily, who was watching her with fascination. "Special circumstances especially." The conversation continued, practical details mixed with tentative planning, while Lily gradually warmed up to these new adults in her life, showing Lucas her favorite illustrations in the book she'd been reading. Watching them together, Lucas's gentle patience, Lily's growing comfort. Olivia felt a weight lifting from her shoulders, the burden of silence finally set down after 5 long years. Outside, wedding guests were being informed of the postponement, offered refreshments and apologies. The perfect day Lucas and Rebecca had planned was being dismantled, transformed into something entirely different. And yet, as Olivia observed the tender way Rebecca included Lily in their conversation, the respectful way Lucas acknowledged both women in his life, she sensed that perhaps this disruption would ultimately lead to something stronger, more authentic than what had come before. "Would you both stay for dinner?" Rebecca asked as their conversation wound down. "Not the formal reception, obviously, but a private meal. Just the 4 of us. A beginning of sorts." "We'd like that," Olivia said, looking to Lily for confirmation. The child nodded enthusiastically, already charmed by both Lucas and Rebecca. Sometimes the most painful silences are the ones we never meant to keep. Olivia's story reminds us that truth, however difficult, often finds its way to the surface. If you've ever had to make a difficult decision between honesty and peace, drop a comment below. I'd love to hear how you navigated those choppy waters. To understand how Olivia and Lucas reached this pivotal moment, we need to go back to where their story began, 6 years earlier, in a crowded art gallery in downtown Philadelphia. Olivia Russell, as she was known then, was showcasing her illustrations at a charity exhibition benefiting children's literacy. At 26, she was just beginning to make a name for herself in the competitive world of children's book illustration, her whimsical, detail-rich drawings catching the attention of several small publishers. That particular evening, she was standing beside her display, explaining her creative process to an elderly patron, when she noticed a tall man studying her illustration of a dragon reading to a group of woodland creatures. There was something in his focused expression, the way he leaned in to examine the details, that caught her attention. The dragon is actually the villain who becomes reformed through storytelling, she said, approaching him after excusing herself from the previous conversation. Books change even the most fearsome hearts. He turned, and Olivia found herself looking into the most striking blue eyes she'd ever seen. I like that concept, he said, smiling. Redemption through literature. Though I'm more of a numbers guy myself. Nothing wrong with numbers, Olivia replied, returning his smile. They tell their own kind of stories. Lucas Bennett, he said, extending his hand. Engineering student turned reluctant business major. Olivia Russell, she responded, noting the warmth of his handshake. Artist turned reluctant networker for the evening. Not enjoying the socializing aspect, he asked, his eyes crinkling with amusement. Let's just say I'm more comfortable with fictional characters than real people most days. Lucas laughed, a rich sound that Olivia found immediately appealing. Well, I'd like to think I'm less complicated than a reformed dragon. Would you mind telling me more about your work? It's extraordinary. That simple question led to an hour-long conversation that flowed from art to engineering to their shared love of old sci-fi movies. By the time Lucas reluctantly mentioned he needed to leave to meet friends for a dinner reservation, Olivia felt as though she'd known him for years rather than a single evening. Maybe we could continue this conversation sometime, he suggested, a hint of uncertainty in his voice that Olivia found endearing from someone who otherwise exuded confidence. Over coffee, perhaps? I'd like that, she replied, surprised by her own eagerness. They exchanged numbers, and Lucas called the very next day. Coffee led to dinner, dinner to a weekend hike, and within 2 months, they were virtually inseparable. Lucas was everything Olivia hadn't known she was looking for, intelligent, ambitious but not arrogant, with a quiet intensity that complemented her more dreamy, creative nature. We balance each other, Lucas told her one evening as they walked along the river after dinner. You help me see beyond spreadsheets and projections. I help you remember deadlines and contract details. Are you saying I'm flighty? Olivia teased, nudging his shoulder with hers. Not flighty, he corrected, pulling her close. Just occasionally untethered from mundane reality. It's one of the things I love about you. It was the first time he'd used the word love, and Olivia's heart soared. I love you too, she said softly, the words feeling both momentous and completely natural. Their courtship was swift but not reckless. They were both old enough to know what they wanted, mature enough to discuss their future with clear eyes. Lucas was working for a tech startup with promising prospects, while Olivia's illustration career was gaining traction with a series of well-received children's books. 6 months after they met, during a weekend trip to a lakeside cabin, Lucas proposed. It wasn't an elaborate, Instagram-worthy production, just the two of them on the cabin's porch at sunset, Lucas suddenly dropping to one knee with a ring box in his hand. I've never been more certain of anything in my life, he said, his voice steady despite the emotion in his eyes. You're everything I didn't know I was missing. Will you marry me, Olivia? Yes, she replied without hesitation. 1,000 times yes. They were married 4 months later in a charming ceremony at a historic downtown hotel. Olivia wore her grandmother's restored lace veil, Lucas a classic black tuxedo. Maya was the maid of honor, Lucas's college roommate, the best man. It wasn't a large wedding, but it was filled with joy and optimism for the future they would build together. The problems began on their honeymoon in Bermuda. Their first attempt at intimacy as husband and wife was marked by unexpected pain for Olivia, sharp, burning discomfort that made her pull away, tears in her eyes. I'm so sorry, she gasped, mortified and confused. I don't know what's wrong. Did I hurt you? Lucas asked, immediately concerned. We can take it slower. They tried again the next night, with more preparation, more patience, but the result was the same. The pain was so intense that Olivia couldn't continue, leaving them both frustrated and bewildered. Maybe it's just stress, Lucas suggested, holding her gently as she fought back tears of embarrassment. The wedding, the move to the new apartment, your book deadline. That's a lot of pressure. Let's just enjoy the rest of our honeymoon and not worry about it. But the problem didn't disappear when they returned home. If anything, it seemed to worsen, with each attempt at physical intimacy ending in pain for Olivia and increasing frustration for both of them. After 2 weeks of this, Olivia made an appointment with her doctor. It's probably just vaginismus, the doctor said after a brief examination. An involuntary tightening of the vaginal muscles. It's quite common in newlyweds. Try to relax more, maybe have a glass of wine beforehand. Use more lubricant. It should resolve itself as you get more comfortable. Olivia followed the advice diligently, but the pain persisted. A second doctor suggested stress might be the culprit and recommended meditation and relaxation techniques. A third wondered if it might be psychological, perhaps some unresolved issues around intimacy or commitment. Meanwhile, Lucas's initial patience began to wear thin. "Did you ever have this problem before?" he asked one night after another failed attempt. "With previous partners?" "No," Olivia admitted, feeling increasingly inadequate. "Never. I don't understand what's happening." "Maybe we should talk to a couples therapist," Lucas suggested, his voice carefully neutral. "There might be something we're missing." The couples therapist asked probing questions about their relationship, their communication, their expectations around sex. Were there underlying tensions? Unspoken resentments? Hidden anxieties? "I love Lucas," Olivia insisted, frustrated tears welling in her eyes. "I want to be with him in every way. It's not psychological, it's physical. The pain is real." But as the weeks turned into months with no improvement, a subtle shift occurred in their relationship. Lucas began staying later at work, coming home after Olivia was already asleep. She threw herself into her illustration projects, working long hours at her drafting table. They still shared meals, still exchanged affectionate kisses, but the easy closeness they had enjoyed before was eroding, replaced by a growing tension neither knew how to address. 6 months into their marriage, Lucas's startup faced a major setback when an investor pulled out unexpectedly. The stress of potential layoffs, of possibly having to start over professionally, added another layer of strain to their already fragile relationship. "I need you," Lucas said one night, reaching for her in bed. Can we try again? Please." Olivia wanted nothing more than to comfort him, to connect with him in the way he needed. She agreed, and they proceeded with all the careful preparations that had become their routine, but the result was the same. Searing pain that made physical intimacy impossible. Lucas rolled away from her, frustration evident in every line of his body. "Maybe you just don't want me," he said, the words cutting through the darkness. "Maybe all of this, the doctors, the therapist, it's just a way to avoid admitting that you made a mistake in marrying me." "That's not true," Olivia protested, hurt and anger flooding through her. "How can you say that? I love you. I want this to work as much as you do." "Do you?" Lucas sat up, switching on the bedside lamp. In its harsh glare, his face looked like a stranger's, hard, suspicious, none of the warmth she had fallen in love with. "Because from where I'm sitting, it seems like you married me under false pretenses. You were fine before the wedding, and the minute we had rings on our fingers, suddenly you can't bear to have me touch you." "That's not fair," Olivia said, her voice breaking. "I'm in pain, Lucas. Real, physical pain. Why would I fake that? What would be the point?" "I don't know," he replied, getting out of bed and reaching for his robe. "Maybe you wanted the wedding, the stability, the respectable husband with promising career prospects. Maybe the actual marriage part was secondary." The accusation was so far from the truth, so deeply unfair, that Olivia couldn't formulate a response. She watched in stunned silence as Lucas grabbed his pillow and a spare blanket. "I'll sleep on the couch," he said flatly. "We both need some space to figure out what happens next." The next morning, Lucas was gone before Olivia woke up, leaving only a note saying he would be staying with a friend for a few days to clear his head. Those few days stretched into a week, their only communication brief, formal texts about practical matters like mail and bills. When he finally returned to their apartment, it was with a clinical detachment that frightened Olivia more than his anger had. "I've been doing some research," he said, setting his laptop on the kitchen table. There are medical conditions that can cause the symptoms you're describing: endometriosis, certain infections, even some autoimmune disorders. I found a specialist who might be able to help. Dr. Eleanor Chun. She has excellent reviews, especially for complex cases. Hope fluttered in Olivia's chest. This was the Lucas she knew: methodical, solution-oriented, caring. "Thank you," she said, reaching for his hand. "That means so much to me." But Lucas withdrew his hand before she could touch him. "I made an appointment for next Thursday at 2 p.m., he continued, his voice flat. "I've emailed you the details. I won't be able to go with you. I have an important meeting with potential new investors." The appointment with Dr. Chun was different from the start. The specialist listened intently to Olivia's history, asked detailed questions about the nature and location of the pain, and conducted a thorough examination that, while uncomfortable, felt purposeful rather than dismissive. "I strongly suspect you have endometriosis," Dr. Chun said afterward, her manner direct but kind. "It's a condition where tissue similar to the lining of the uterus grows outside the uterus. It can cause severe pain, especially during intercourse, and it's frequently misdiagnosed or dismissed as psychological." Tears of relief streamed down Olivia's face. "So I'm not imagining it. There's really something wrong." "You're absolutely not imagining it," Dr. Chun assured her. "This is a real medical condition, and a particularly severe case from what I can determine. We'll need to do a laparoscopy to confirm the diagnosis and determine the extent of the endometrial tissue, but I'm fairly confident that's what we're dealing with." "Can it be treated?" Olivia asked, hope and anxiety mingling in her chest. "Yes, though the approach depends on the severity. During the laparoscopy, we can remove the endometrial tissue, which often provides significant relief. Some patients also benefit from hormone therapy. In the most severe cases, more extensive surgery might be necessary, but let's not get ahead of ourselves." Olivia left the appointment with a date for the diagnostic procedure, a stack of informational pamphlets, and a profound sense of validation. She couldn't wait to tell Lucas, to show him that she hadn't been making excuses, that their problems had a medical explanation and, potentially, a solution. But when she arrived home, bubbling with this new information, she found Lucas sitting at the kitchen table, a folder of papers in front of him and an expression she couldn't read on his face. "Lucas, you won't believe what the doctor said," she began, setting down her purse. "She thinks I have something called endometriosis. It's a real condition, and it explains everything. The pain, why it started after we got married, all of it. She wants to do a procedure called a laparoscopy to confirm, but she's almost certain." "I'm moving out," Lucas interrupted, his voice unnaturally calm. "I've signed a month-to-month lease on an apartment closer to the office." Olivia stared at him, the words like a physical blow. "What? Why? Didn't you hear what I just said? There's a medical explanation for everything that's been happening." "I heard you," Lucas said, sliding the folder toward her. "And maybe there is a medical explanation. But it's too late, Olivia. This isn't working, and we both know it." "Too late," Olivia echoed, disbelief washing over her. "Lucas, we can fix this. The doctor says there are treatments that can help. We can get back to how things were. Can we?" Lucas stood up, running a hand through his hair in a gesture of frustration she'd come to know well. "Because from where I stand, our entire relationship feels like it was built on quicksand. You were one person before we got married, and someone completely different after. Even if there is a medical reason for the intimacy issues, it doesn't explain the distance, the way you've shut me out emotionally." "I shut you out?" Olivia's voice rose in disbelief. "You're the one who's been staying late at work, sleeping on the couch, barely talking to me for months. I've been trying to solve this problem while dealing with pain and doctors who didn't believe me, and you've been, what? Planning your escape? That's not fair," Lucas said, a flash of anger breaking through his controlled demeanor. "I've been trying too. I've been patient. I've suggested doctors, therapists. I've researched possible causes. But at some point, I have to accept that this marriage isn't what either of us thought it would be. So that's it. At the first real challenge, you're just walking away." "This isn't the first challenge, Olivia. It's 6 months of challenges, of rejection, of watching the person I married become a stranger. And my company is failing, my career is in free fall, and I need to focus on salvaging what I can professionally. I can't keep pouring energy into a relationship that's making us both miserable." Olivia felt as though she were drowning, struggling to process the rapid collapse of everything she had believed secure. "Lucas, please. Just wait until after the laparoscopy. If the doctor is right, if they can treat the endometriosis, things could get better. We could get better." For a moment, something flickered in Lucas's eyes, doubt, perhaps, or a hint of the love that had once been so evident. But then his expression hardened. "The papers in that folder are divorce documents," he said quietly. "I'm not filing yet. Take some time to read them, to think about what you want. If, after your procedure and some reflection, you still believe this marriage is worth saving, we can discuss it. But I need space to clear my head, to focus on saving my company, to figure out what I really want." With that, he picked up a duffel bag Olivia hadn't noticed by the door. "I've taken some clothes and personal items. I'll arrange to get the rest later. My new address and contact information are in the folder." "Lucas, please," Olivia whispered, tears streaming down her face. "Don't do this." But he was already opening the door. "I'm sorry, Olivia. I really am. This isn't what I wanted either." And then he was gone, the door closing with a quiet finality behind him. Olivia stood frozen in the apartment that suddenly felt too large, too empty, the doctor's pamphlets still clutched in her hand and Lucas's divorce papers on the table before her. How had everything fallen apart so completely, so quickly? Just an hour ago, she had been full of hope, certain that the diagnosis would be the beginning of healing for both her body and her marriage. Now she was alone, facing surgery and possibly divorce simultaneously, the future she had planned with Lucas disintegrating before her eyes. When truth finally breaks through silence, it changes everything. Lucas walked away from his marriage believing one story, while Olivia faced her medical crisis alone. If you're enjoying this emotional journey, please hit that like button and subscribe to hear more stories of love, loss, and unexpected reunions. Now, let's continue with how this broken relationship found its way back to healing. The weeks that followed were among the most difficult of Olivia's life. The laparoscopy confirmed Dr. Chin's diagnosis of severe endometriosis, requiring more extensive surgery than initially anticipated. The recovery was painful and lonely, with only Maya making daily visits to help with basic needs and provide emotional support. Lucas didn't call, didn't visit. The only communication came through his lawyer, formal emails regarding the divorce proceedings, which Lucas had officially initiated a week before Olivia's surgery. There was no mention of her diagnosis, no acknowledgement of the medical validation of everything she had tried to tell him. "Have you told him about the surgery results?" Maya asked one afternoon, helping Olivia change her bandages. "He should know he was wrong." "I tried," Olivia said, wincing as the adhesive pulled at tender skin. "I emailed him directly after the diagnosis was confirmed." The message bounced back with an automated response directing all communication to his lawyer. Maya's expression darkened. "That's cold, even for someone hurt and angry." "What about his lawyer? Have you explained the situation to them?" "I sent all the medical documentation," Olivia confirmed. The lawyer acknowledged receipt but said Lucas's position regarding the divorce remains unchanged. "Bastard," Maya muttered. "After everything you've been through." "It's not entirely his fault," Olivia said, surprising herself with the defense. "He was hurt too, Maya. He thought I didn't want him, that I'd been dishonest. And his company was failing at the same time. It was too much pressure from all sides." "Stop making excuses for him," Maya said firmly. "Yes, he was going through a tough time. Yes, he might have felt rejected. But walking away from his wife when she was facing a serious medical condition? That's a choice he made, and it wasn't the right one." Olivia couldn't argue with that, though part of her still wished she could make Maya understand the complexity of the situation, how they had both been caught in a spiral of misunderstanding and pain that neither had known how to escape. 2 weeks after her surgery, still moving carefully and taking pain medication, Olivia received a thick envelope from Lucas's lawyer. Inside was a draft of the divorce settlement, along with a note indicating that Lucas wanted to proceed with an uncontested divorce to minimize stress and legal costs for both parties. The terms were surprisingly generous. Lucas was offering her the apartment, a financial settlement that would provide a comfortable cushion for several years, and a clean break with no ongoing financial entanglements. All he asked in return was her agreement to the dissolution of their marriage on the grounds of irreconcilable differences. Staring at the papers, Olivia felt a complex mix of emotions. Anger that he was proceeding with the divorce despite now having evidence of her medical condition. Relief that he wasn't trying to fight her on financial terms. Sadness that this was how their love story was ending. And beneath it all, a growing realization that perhaps a clean break was indeed the kindest option for both of them. With shaking hands, she signed the papers, adding a brief handwritten note. "I'm sorry things ended this way. I hope you find happiness, Lucas. I never lied to you. I never stopped loving you." 3 days later, she discovered she was pregnant. The irony was almost unbearable. After months of painful, limited intimacy, after being diagnosed with a condition that often caused infertility, after signing divorce papers that would sever her last tie to Lucas, now she was carrying his child. "What are you going to do?" Maya asked when Olivia called her, sobbing, with the news. "I don't know," Olivia admitted. "I need to tell him, right? He deserves to know. After the way he's treated you? Honey, you don't owe him anything. This isn't about what I owe him. It's about what's right. This is his child too." But telling Lucas proved impossible. His phone number was no longer in service. Emails to his work address bounced back. His lawyer responded to Olivia's request for direct contact with a terse message stating that Mr. Bennett was traveling internationally for work and had left instructions that all communication should continue through legal channels. "I'm pregnant with Lucas's child," Olivia wrote to the lawyer. "Please have him contact me as soon as possible to discuss this development." The response came 2 days later. "Mr. Bennett has been informed of your claim. He has instructed me to advise you that he does not believe the child is his, given the documented intimacy issues in your marriage. He will agree to paternity testing after the birth if you wish to pursue that route. In the meantime, the divorce proceedings will continue as planned." Olivia stared at the email in disbelief. Lucas thought she was lying, that she had been unfaithful. The accusation was so far from reality, so deeply hurtful, that she couldn't formulate a response. She had never been with anyone else during their marriage, despite the physical challenges they had faced. "I told you," Maya said when Olivia showed her the message. "He doesn't deserve to know this child. He doesn't deserve you." Still, Olivia made one last attempt. She wrote a letter, a physical letter on actual paper, explaining everything. The confirmation of endometriosis, the surgery, the unexpected pregnancy that had somehow occurred despite everything. She included copies of her medical records, the surgical report, the positive pregnancy test results. "I have never been unfaithful to you," she wrote. "This child is yours, Lucas. I'm not asking for anything, not money, not a reconciliation, not even acknowledgement if that's what you prefer. But I couldn't live with myself if I didn't give you all the information before making such an important decision." She sent the letter by certified mail to Lucas's new address, requiring his signature for delivery. 2 weeks later, it was returned to her unopened, stamped, refused by recipient. That was when Olivia finally gave up. The divorce was finalized 3 months later, when she was just starting to show. By then, she had made her decision. She would raise this child on her own. She would move to a new city, somewhere she could afford on her illustration income. She would build a new life for herself and her baby, without Lucas Bennett. Philadelphia had too many memories, too many places that reminded her of what she had lost. Boston offered a fresh start, a thriving publishing industry for her career, and excellent medical facilities for her ongoing endometriosis treatment and pregnancy care. With Maya's help, she found a small studio apartment, packed up what she could take, sold or donated the rest, and left her old life behind. Lily Elizabeth Russell was born on a snowy February morning, a healthy 7-pound baby with a shock of dark hair and her father's striking blue eyes. As Olivia held her daughter for the first time, she made a silent promise. This child would know she was wanted, loved, and enough, exactly as she was. She might not have a father in her life, but she would never doubt her mother's devotion. The years that followed were challenging but rewarding. Olivia built her illustration career book by book, establishing a reputation for detailed, emotionally resonant artwork that appealed to both children and the adults reading to them. She managed her endometriosis with a combination of medication, diet, and regular checkups with a specialist. She created a warm, loving home for Lily, first in the tiny studio, then in a 1-bedroom, and finally, after a particularly successful series of books, in the two-bedroom apartment with the bay window and balcony. She dated occasionally, when Lily was with Maya for a weekend playdate, but never allowed anyone to become serious enough to meet her daughter. The wounds from her marriage had healed on the surface, but beneath that, Olivia remained wary of deep emotional entanglements. Her life centered on Lily and her work, and that seemed enough. And then, 5 years after she had last seen him, Lucas Bennett's wedding invitation arrived in her mailbox, reopening questions she had thought long settled and setting in motion a chain of events that would change all their lives. Now, sitting in the garden pavilion at Westfield Estate, watching Lucas and Rebecca interact with Lily, Olivia felt as though she were observing a scene from someone else's life. This wasn't how she had imagined their reunion, if she had allowed herself to imagine it at all. There was no anger, no recriminations, just 3 adults trying to navigate an impossible situation with as much grace as they could muster, and a child innocently at the center of it all. "I should call my mother," Rebecca said, rising from her seat. "She'll be wondering what's happening with the ceremony. Would you mind if I step outside for a moment?" "Of course not," Olivia replied, grateful for the other woman's composure in such a challenging situation. "Take your time." As Rebecca left the pavilion, Lucas moved to sit beside Lily, who was showing him her favorite page in the picture book, a detailed illustration of a magical library. "I like how all the books are flying," Lily explained, pointing to the image. "Mommy says books have magic in them, and this shows it for real." "Your mommy is very wise," Lucas said, his voice gentle. "Books do have a special kind of magic. Do you like to read?" Lily asked, studying his face with the frank curiosity of childhood. "I do," Lucas confirmed, "though I mostly read grown-up books about business and technology. Not nearly as interesting as magical libraries." "Mommy can draw you a magical library," Lily offered generously. "She's really good at drawing. She makes books for kids." "I remember," Lucas said softly, his eyes meeting Olivia's over Lily's head. "Your mother was always incredibly talented." The simple acknowledgement of their shared past sent a flutter through Olivia's chest. For so long, it had been as though those years together had existed only in her memory, with no one to confirm they had been real. "Lily," she said, gathering her composure, "why don't you look at the other books in the basket while I talk to Mr. Bennett for a minute?" "Okay," Lily agreed easily, already reaching for another colorful volume. Lucas rose and joined Olivia at the other end of the pavilion, just out of Lily's earshot. For a moment, neither spoke, the weight of 5 years of silence hanging between them. "She's extraordinary," Lucas said finally. "Smart, perceptive, confident. You've done an amazing job with her, Olivia." "Thank you," Olivia replied, emotion tightening her throat. "She makes it easy. She's been a joy from day one." "I'm so sorry I wasn't there," Lucas said, his voice dropping to barely above a whisper. "When I think about everything I've missed, her birth, her first steps, her first words." "You didn't know," Olivia said, surprising herself with the absolution. "I tried to tell you, but I refused to listen," Lucas finished, regret evident in his expression. "I was so hurt, so convinced you had betrayed me somehow, that I couldn't see past my own pain. And then when you tried to contact me about the pregnancy, I was sure it was just a desperate attempt to stop the divorce. I never imagined." His voice trailed off, his gaze returning to Lily. "I never imagined I had a daughter. I sent you the medical records," Olivia said quietly. "The surgical confirmation of endometriosis. The pregnancy test results. Did you ever actually see any of it?" Lucas shook his head, shame evident in his expression. "No. I told my lawyer to handle everything, to shield me from what I assumed were manipulations. The letter you sent to my apartment, I recognized your handwriting on the envelope, and I was in such a dark place that I couldn't bear to read whatever accusations or pleas it might contain. I had the doorman return it unopened." The confirmation of what she had suspected, that Lucas had deliberately avoided the truth rather than rejected it, brought a strange mix of vindication and renewed hurt. "So you never knew about the surgery? About how severe the endometriosis was?" "Not until last year," Lucas admitted. "I developed a health condition that required extensive family medical history. The doctor asked about inherited conditions, and I mentioned we'd been told you might have endometriosis before our divorce. He recommended I get more specific information, since certain aspects of endometriosis can have genetic components. My new doctor contacted your former physician, who confirmed the diagnosis and severity. That's when I realized how wrong I had been, how unfair to you. And that's why you sent the invitation? Because you felt guilty? Partly, Lucas acknowledged, but also because I genuinely wanted closure. I've carried the weight of how our marriage ended for 5 years, Olivia. The older I got, the more I recognized my own failures and how I handled everything. I thought if we could talk, if I could apologize for not being more patient, more understanding. He shook his head. I never imagined there was a child. That changes everything. Yes, Olivia agreed softly. It does. Rebecca returned then, her expression composed despite the obvious strain of the situation. My mother sends her regards, she said with a small smile, and her assurance that postponing is absolutely the right decision, given the circumstances. She's helping Zoe inform the guests and arrange for the dinner to proceed as a celebration, just without the ceremony portion. Thank you for being so understanding, Olivia said, genuine gratitude in her voice. This can't be easy for you. It's not, Rebecca acknowledged frankly. But I've always believed that how we handle unexpected challenges reveals more about us than how we handle success. This is certainly unexpected, but it doesn't change how I feel about Lucas, or my belief that we can build a good life together. She looked at Lily, who was now completely absorbed in a new book. It just means that life will include one more person than we had anticipated. The simple acceptance, the lack of jealousy or resentment, impressed Olivia deeply. Rebecca Winters was either an exceptionally secure, compassionate person, or she was putting on a remarkable performance for Lucas's benefit. Either way, Olivia found herself respecting the woman who would have been married to Lucas by now, if not for her arrival. I should take Lily back to our hotel, Olivia said, suddenly aware of how long they had been at the estate. This has been a lot for everyone to process, and she'll need dinner and her usual bedtime routine. Actually, Rebecca said, we were hoping you would both join us for dinner here. The chef has prepared an incredible meal, and it seems a shame to let it go to waste. Just the 4 of us, as I mentioned earlier. A chance to talk more about how we move forward from here. Olivia hesitated, glancing at Lily. I'm not sure if that's appropriate. You have guests, people who came for your wedding. They're being well taken care of, Rebecca assured her. And right now, I think the most important thing is for us to begin establishing some kind of framework for how this is going to work. Lucas wants to be part of Lily's life. I support that completely. But there are practical matters to consider, where we all live, how often visits would occur, whether Lucas would have legal rights and responsibilities. The sooner we start discussing these things, the sooner we can create stability for Lily. The pragmatic approach, the focus on Lily's well-being rather than on the awkwardness of the situation, cemented Olivia's growing respect for Rebecca. All right, she agreed. Dinner would be nice. Lily, would you like to have dinner with Mr. Bennett and Ms. Winters before we go back to our hotel? Lily looked up from her book, her face brightening. Yes, please. Can I show Mr. Bennett my animal crackers? I brought them specially to share. I'm sure he'd love that, Olivia said, a lump forming in her throat at her daughter's instinctive generosity. And you can call him Lucas, if that's easier. Actually, Lucas said, his voice thick with emotion, I was hoping that eventually, when she's comfortable and you approve, she might call me Dad. The simple request, delivered with such vulnerable hope, brought tears to Olivia's eyes. We can work toward that, she said softly, one step at a time. As they left the pavilion to head toward the main house for dinner, Lily skipped ahead with Rebecca, who was pointing out butterflies in the garden. Lucas fell into step beside Olivia, close enough that their shoulders occasionally brushed. Thank you, he said quietly, his eyes fixed on Lily's small figure. For coming today, for telling me the truth, even though it would have been easier not to. The truth was always there, Olivia replied. It just needed the right moment to be heard. Lucas nodded, understanding in his gaze. Some truths take time, I guess, and some mistakes take years to correct. He hesitated, then added, I'm sorry, Olivia, for not listening when you needed me to, for assuming the worst instead of trusting what we had. We were young, she said simply. We both made mistakes. Ahead of them, Lily's laughter rang out as Rebecca showed her how to make a daisy chain. The sound bridged the years of silence, connecting past to present, hurt to healing, in a way words never could. Some journeys come full circle, Olivia reflected as they walked toward an unexpected future. And sometimes, the heaviest burdens we carry, secrets, regrets, unspoken truths, become the foundation for something beautiful when finally set down in the light. The main dining room at Westfield Estate had been transformed for a wedding reception that would now not take place, at least not today. Crystal chandeliers cast a warm glow over elegant table settings, while floor-to-ceiling windows offered views of the gardens bathed in the golden light of early evening. Staff had quickly rearranged one secluded corner to create an intimate setting for four, away from the larger gathering of wedding guests who were now enjoying what had been hastily rebranded as a celebration of friendship. "It's like a fairy tale dining room," Lily whispered to Olivia as they were shown to their table. Her eyes were wide with wonder, taking in the crystal, the flowers, the soft music from the string quartet in the corner. "It is quite magical," Olivia agreed, helping Lily into her chair, which had been discreetly boosted with cushions to accommodate her small frame. "I ordered a children's menu option," Rebecca explained as they settled in. "The chef assures me it's the same quality as the adult meal, just more approachable for younger palates." "That's very thoughtful. Thank you," Olivia said, once again impressed by Rebecca's consideration. As servers poured water and wine for the adults, a momentary awkwardness descended. How did one make small talk in such an unprecedented situation? What was the appropriate conversation opener when dining with your ex-husband, his almost bride, and the daughter he had just discovered? Lily, oblivious to the tension, solved the problem in her direct way. "Are you still getting married?" she asked, looking between Lucas and Rebecca. "Just not today?" The adults exchanged glances, Rebecca taking the lead with a gentle smile. "Yes, we're still planning to get married. We just decided to wait a little while, so everyone has time to adjust to some new information." "Because my daddy didn't know about me?" Lily asked, her perception startling the adults into silence. "How did you know that?" Olivia asked carefully. Lily shrugged, reaching for her water glass with both hands. "I heard you talking. And he looks at me the way Michael's daddy looked at him when he came back from the army, like he's seeing something amazing he didn't know was there." The simple observation, delivered with a child's unfiltered honesty, brought a lump to Olivia's throat. "You're right," she acknowledged. "Lucas is your daddy, and he didn't know about you until today. Because you were divorced," Lily continued, piecing together the fragments of adult conversation she had absorbed. "And you couldn't tell him about me." "I tried," Olivia said gently. "But sometimes grown-ups have trouble communicating, especially when they're hurt or confused." "I should have listened," Lucas added, his voice husky with emotion. "That was my mistake, and I've missed so much because of it." Lily considered this, her small face serious. "But you know now," she said finally. "And you want to be my daddy?" "More than anything in the world," Lucas replied without hesitation. "If that's okay with you." Lily nodded, seeming satisfied with this answer. "I always wanted a daddy," she confided. "The other kids at school have them. They do special things together, like fishing and building stuff." "I'm not very good at fishing," Lucas admitted with a small smile. "But I love building things. Maybe we could start with that." "I have blocks at home," Lily offered eagerly. "And a construction set with gears that move. Mommy says I'm good at figuring out how things work." "She gets that from you," Olivia said to Lucas. "That analytical mind. The way she approaches problems." Lucas's eyes shone with a mixture of pride and regret. "I'd love to see what you can build," he told Lily. "And maybe we could build something together." "The foundation for a relationship, perhaps," Rebecca suggested, her metaphor carrying a weight the adults all recognized. "Something strong that can support whatever structure you choose to create." The arrival of their appetizers provided a natural pause in the emotionally charged conversation. For a few minutes, they focused on the food, a delicate seafood starter for the adults, crispy cheese bites for Lily, before Rebecca gently steered the conversation toward more practical matters. "I know this is just our first conversation," she began, "and we have plenty of time to work out details. But I think it might be helpful to start thinking about how we want this to work logistically. Olivia, you and Lily live in Philadelphia, correct?" "Yes," Olivia confirmed. "I have a 2-bedroom apartment in Center City. I work from home mostly, illustrating children's books." "I've seen your work," Rebecca said with genuine appreciation. "The Moonbeam Chronicles series? Those illustrations are extraordinary." "Thank you," Olivia said, surprised and touched that Rebecca would know her professional work. "That series has been good to us." It allowed me to move from a tiny studio to a place with actual space for Lily to play and grow. Lucas and I live in Boston, Rebecca continued, which presents some geographical challenges. However, as I mentioned earlier, Lucas's company is opening a Philadelphia office next year. We had been planning to remain in Boston, with Lucas commuting when necessary, but perhaps we should reconsider that arrangement. I wouldn't want to disrupt your lives, Olivia began, but Lucas interrupted gently. A 3-hour drive or a 1-hour flight isn't insurmountable, he said. But being in the same city would make regular involvement in Lily's life much more feasible. Weekend visits are one thing, but being able to attend school events, doctor's appointments, daily moments, that requires proximity. You'd move to Philadelphia? Olivia asked, trying to process this possibility. Both of you. It's definitely worth considering, Rebecca replied. My design firm has clients nationwide. I can work from anywhere. And the Philadelphia expansion is crucial to Lucas's company's growth strategy. We had discussed the possibility of eventually relocating, just not with this particular motivation. The matter-of-fact way Rebecca addressed such a significant life change, moving to a new city to accommodate a child neither of them had known existed that morning, struck Olivia as extraordinary. Either she was the most adaptable, compassionate person imaginable, or she was still in shock and functioning on autopilot. Perhaps a bit of both. That's incredibly generous, Olivia said carefully. But I wouldn't want you to make such a major decision in the heat of the moment. This has been a day of enormous revelations for everyone. Maybe we should all take some time to process before making life-altering plans. A reasonable suggestion, Rebecca agreed. Though I will say, Lucas and I have always made decisions based on what brings the most value to our lives. If being close to Lily would enrich our family experience, that's a compelling factor regardless of the circumstances that brought us to this realization. Family experience, Olivia repeated, the phrase highlighting the strange new reality they were navigating. These people who had been strangers this morning were now, in some sense, family, connected through Lily in a way that could not be undone. I know it sounds odd, Lucas acknowledged, reading her expression. And I'm not suggesting we'll instantly become one big happy family. But Lily deserves to have all the adults in her life working together for her benefit, doesn't she? She does, Olivia agreed, glancing at her daughter, who was happily focused on dipping her cheese bites in marinara sauce, seemingly unconcerned with the adults' conversation about her future. I just want to make sure we proceed thoughtfully. Lily forms attachments quickly, and if we start introducing you as her father, bringing you into her routine, and then things change. I understand your concern, Lucas said, his voice gentle but firm. But I need you to understand something, Olivia. I'm not going anywhere. I've missed 4 years of my daughter's life. I won't miss a single day more than necessary. Whatever arrangements we make, whether we live in the same city or coordinate visits across distance, my commitment to being Lily's father is absolute and permanent. The conviction in his voice was unmistakable, reminding Olivia of the man she had fallen in love with years ago, decisive, passionate about what mattered to him, unwavering once his mind was made up. It was both reassuring and unsettling to see that core aspect of his personality unchanged by time. I believe you, she said softly, and Lily deserves to have you in her life. We'll make it work, whatever form that takes. As their main courses arrived, roasted lamb for the adults, chicken tenders with gourmet mac and cheese for Lily, the conversation shifted to more immediate plans. When would Lucas see Lily next? How would they begin building their relationship? What would they tell her about why he hadn't been in her life until now? Children understand more than we give them credit for, Rebecca observed, watching Lily carefully cut her chicken into bite-sized pieces, a skill she was clearly still mastering but approached with determination. But they also need explanations that make sense within their framework of understanding. I've been thinking about that, Olivia said. I believe the simplest version of the truth is best. That mommy and daddy were married but got divorced before mommy knew about the baby. That daddy moved far away for work, and mommy couldn't reach him to tell him about Lily. And now that he knows, he wants very much to be part of her life. That sounds right, Lucas agreed. No blame, just circumstance. And an emphasis on the future rather than the past. I have pictures, Olivia said hesitantly. From our wedding, from before. I've kept them for Lily, so she would have some sense of where she came from. Would you like me to share some of those with her while you're present? It might help her connect you to the father I've occasionally mentioned in stories. I'd like that very much, Lucas said, his voice thick with emotion. Thank you for preserving that part of our history for her, despite everything. She deserves to know she came from love, Olivia said simply. Whatever happened afterward. The rest of the dinner passed in a blur of practical arrangements and tentative plans. Lucas would come to Philadelphia the following weekend to spend time with Lily. They would start with short visits, gradually increasing the duration as Lily grew comfortable. Rebecca would join occasionally, but recognized the importance of allowing father and daughter to bond one-on-one initially. By the time dessert arrived, a chocolate mousse that made Lily's eyes widen with delight, Olivia felt simultaneously exhausted and lighter, as though the secret she had carried for so long was physically tangible, and setting it down had freed something within her. May I ask a personal question? Rebecca said as they lingered over coffee and Lily's hot chocolate. You don't have to answer if it makes you uncomfortable. Of course, Olivia replied, curious. After everything that happened with your endometriosis diagnosis and the divorce, did you receive proper treatment? Are you, well, health-wise? The question was unexpected but asked with such genuine concern that Olivia found herself answering honestly. Yes, fortunately. The surgery removed most of the endometrial tissue, and I've been on a treatment regimen since then to prevent recurrence. I still have occasional flare-ups, but nothing like before. The specialists were actually quite surprised I was able to conceive naturally, given the severity of my case. I'm glad you found proper care, Rebecca said with a warmth that suggested personal understanding. Too many women struggle for years with undiagnosed or mismanaged reproductive health issues. The dismissal you experienced from medical professionals, and consequently from Lucas, is unfortunately common. You seem very knowledgeable about the subject, Olivia observed. A shadow passed over Rebecca's face. I have a similar condition, not endometriosis, but polycystic ovarian syndrome. It's one of the reasons Lucas and I connected so deeply when we met at a charity function for reproductive health research. He was there because of you. Actually, though I didn't know that at the time. He had become involved with the foundation after learning about your diagnosis, as a way of making amends in some small way. Olivia looked at Lucas, surprised by this revelation. You were supporting endometriosis research. Lucas nodded, a flush rising to his cheeks. After I received confirmation of your diagnosis, I felt haunted by how I had handled everything. I couldn't undo the past, couldn't reach out to you directly after so much time had passed, but I could at least try to ensure other women didn't face the same dismissal and misunderstanding. The foundation funds research, doctor education programs, and patient advocacy. That's where we met, Rebecca added. I was designing the event space pro bono, and Lucas was a major donor. We started talking about our personal connections to reproductive health issues, and she shrugged elegantly. The rest, as they say, is history. The knowledge that their shared medical challenges had played a role in bringing Lucas and Rebecca together added yet another layer of complexity to their intertwined stories. In some strange way, Olivia's suffering had indirectly led Lucas to a partner who understood the very issue that had torn their marriage apart. Life has a peculiar way of coming full circle, doesn't it? Olivia mused, the observation directed more to herself than to the others. It does indeed, Rebecca agreed. Though I suspect none of us could have predicted exactly how our circles would intersect. As the evening drew to a close, Lily's eyelids began to droop despite her obvious determination to stay awake in this fascinating new adult configuration. We should get back to our hotel, Olivia said, noticing her daughter's fatigue. It's been an overwhelming day for everyone, especially Lily. Of course, Lucas agreed, though reluctance was evident in his expression. Would it be all right if I called tomorrow? Perhaps we could meet for lunch before you head back to Philadelphia? I'd like that, Olivia said, surprising herself with how genuinely she meant it. Lily's usually at her best around midday. Shall we say noon? Perfect, Lucas said, his relief palpable. There's a child-friendly restaurant at the hotel where we're staying. Plenty of space for a 4-year-old to be comfortable, but good food for adults too. As they prepared to leave, Lucas knelt to Lily's level. I've really enjoyed meeting you today, Lily. Thank you for sharing your animal crackers and showing me your favorite books. You're welcome, Lily replied, suddenly shy again in the face of this tall man's focused attention. Are you really my daddy? Lucas glanced up at Olivia, who nodded her permission. Yes, I am, he said softly. And I'm very sorry I haven't been here until now. But if it's okay with you, I'd like to start being your daddy from today forward. Lily considered this with the serious deliberation she applied to all important matters. Okay, she said finally. But you should know that I don't like green beans, and I need my special pillow to sleep, and I'm learning to read chapter books all by myself. Lucas's face broke into a wide smile. Those are all very important things to know about you. I hope you'll tell me more tomorrow at lunch. I will, Lily promised. Then, with the impulsive affection of childhood, she stepped forward and gave Lucas a quick hug around his neck before retreating to Olivia's side. The simple gesture, so natural and yet so momentous, brought tears to Lucas's eyes that he quickly blinked away. Good night, Lily. Good night, Olivia. Thank you both for everything. As Olivia and Lily walked back to their car, Lily's small hand warm in hers, Olivia felt as though they were walking away from one life and toward another, not abandoning what they had built together, but expanding it to include new possibilities neither had anticipated that morning. Mommy, Lily asked as they reached the car. Is Lucas nice? Yes, sweetheart. He's very nice. And he wants to be my daddy for real? Not just today. For real, Olivia confirmed, helping Lily into her booster seat. For always. Good, Lily said with a decisive nod. I think I'd like having a daddy. And maybe Rebecca too. She knows how to make daisy chains and doesn't talk to me like I'm a baby. They both seem to care about you very much, even though they just met you, Olivia said, carefully navigating the complex emotions swirling within her. But remember, sweetheart, no matter what happens, you and I are always a team. That won't ever change. I know, Lily said with the absolute certainty of a child who has never had reason to doubt her mother's love. We're the best team. The very best, Olivia agreed, starting the car for the short drive back to their hotel. As they pulled away from Westfield Estate, Olivia caught a glimpse in her rearview mirror of Lucas and Rebecca standing together on the steps of the main house, watching them leave. The image, her past and their future, intertwined in ways none of them could have predicted, stayed with her long after Lily had fallen asleep in their hotel room, exhausted by the emotional whirlwind of the day. Tomorrow would bring new conversations, new negotiations of their strange new reality. But for tonight, Olivia allowed herself to believe that perhaps, after years of silence and separation, something unexpectedly beautiful might be emerging from the ashes of what had been lost. When life forces us to confront the past we've been running from, sometimes we discover healing in the most unexpected places. If you've ever had to rebuild trust after heartbreak or navigate the complex terrain of blended families, share your experience in the comments. Your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. The lunch meeting the next day went even better than Olivia had dared to hope. Lily, refreshed after a good night's sleep, was animated and talkative, eager to tell Lucas and Rebecca about her school, her friends, her favorite activities. Lucas listened with rapt attention to every detail, occasionally catching Olivia's eye with an expression of wonder and gratitude that made her heart twist with a complicated mixture of emotions. She's just like you when she gets excited about something, he observed during a moment when Lily was distracted by the children's menu activities. That sparkle in her eyes, the way she talks with her hands. She has your focus, though, Olivia replied, and your memory for details. She never forgets anything, especially promises. Noted, Lucas said with a smile that didn't quite hide the pain behind his eyes. I'll be careful what I promise. Just be consistent, Olivia advised gently. That's what matters most to her. And to me, she added, holding his gaze. Whatever arrangement we make, consistency is key. She needs to know she can count on you. I understand, Lucas said, his expression solemn. I won't let her down. Either of you. After lunch, they walked to a nearby park where Lily could burn off some energy before the long drive home. As she played on the swings, Rebecca and Olivia sat on a bench while Lucas pushed his daughter, each delighted laugh from Lily bringing a broader smile to his face. He's good with her, Rebecca observed. Natural. Yes, Olivia agreed, watching the easy rapport developing between father and daughter. I wasn't sure how she would respond. She's usually shy with new people, but she seems completely comfortable with him already. Children sense authenticity, Rebecca said thoughtfully. And Lucas is nothing if not authentic in his desire to be part of her life. She hesitated, then added, I hope you know I support this completely. I would never stand between Lucas and his daughter. I'm beginning to see that, Olivia acknowledged. Though I'll admit, when I first realized who Lucas was marrying, I expected, well, not this level of understanding and accommodation. Rebecca smiled ruefully. If our situations were reversed, I'm not sure I would be as gracious as you've been. Learning your fiancé has a child on the literal day of your wedding? Most women would be throwing things, not planning cooperative co-parenting arrangements. Why aren't you? Olivia asked, genuinely curious. Angry, I mean. Rebecca considered the question, watching Lucas lift Lily onto his shoulders to give her a better view of a passing butterfly. I suppose because I can see this situation from multiple perspectives. Yes, it's disruptive to our plans, but Lucas didn't knowingly abandon his child. You tried to tell him about the pregnancy. Medical miscommunication and mistrust created a perfect storm of misunderstanding. No one is the villain here, just people making the best decisions they could with the information they had at the time. She turned to face Olivia directly. And selfishly, I've always wanted children. Maids makes natural conception unlikely, and Lucas and I had discussed adoption or surrogacy down the line. Now there's this wonderful little girl who already exists, who is part of the man I love. Why would I resent that gift? You're a remarkable person, Rebecca Winters, Olivia said softly. Lucas is fortunate to have found you. We've both been fortunate, Rebecca replied. And now, perhaps, our good fortune extends to include you and Lily as well. Different from what any of us expected, but potentially wonderful in its own way. The drive back to Philadelphia that afternoon was filled with Lily's excited chatter about her new daddy and his almost wife, who had promised to teach her how to make daisy crowns the next time they met. Olivia listened, responding appropriately while her mind processed the extraordinary events of the weekend and contemplated what might come next. Lucas had mapped out a plan before they departed. He would drive to Philadelphia the following weekend and stay at a hotel nearby. They would start with short visits, an afternoon at the park, dinner at Lily's favorite restaurant, perhaps a trip to the children's museum Lily had mentioned loving. Gradually, as Lily grew comfortable, the visits would extend to full days, eventually overnight stays. Meanwhile, Lucas and Rebecca would accelerate their plans to open the Philadelphia office, aiming to relocate within 3 months rather than the originally planned 6. They would postpone their wedding until after the move, giving everyone time to adjust to the new family configuration before adding another significant change. It feels strange to be coordinating my life with Lucas again, Olivia confided to Maya over coffee the day after returning home. After 5 years of building everything around his absence, suddenly he's a factor in every decision. Are you okay with that? Maya asked, concern evident in her expression. With him swooping back into your lives after all this time? He's not swooping, Olivia corrected gently. He's approaching this thoughtfully, respectfully, and he is Lily's father. She deserves to have him in her life if he's willing to be consistent and committed, which he seems to be. And Rebecca? Is she really as accommodating as she sounds? Or is this the calm before the storm? I think she's genuine, Olivia said after a moment's reflection. There's something very grounded about her. Practical but compassionate. She reminds me a bit of you, actually. High praise indeed, Maya said with a smile. Well, if you trust them, that's good enough for me. But remember, I'm watching both of them like a hawk. One false move, one hint that they're not treating you or Lily with absolute respect, and they'll have me to deal with. My fierce protector, Olivia laughed, grateful for the unwavering loyalty of her friend. I'll be sure to warn them. The following weeks unfolded largely as planned. Lucas arrived each Friday afternoon and departed Sunday evening, spending as much time with Lily as her schedule and comfort level allowed. To Olivia's relief and slight surprise, he was meticulous about respecting boundaries, never arriving unannounced, always confirming plans in advance, consulting Olivia on activities and timing. Lily, for her part, blossomed under her father's attention. Her natural reserve with strangers melted away almost immediately, replaced by an eager anticipation of their time together. She proudly introduced him to her preschool teachers, showed him her favorite spots in the neighborhood park, and began collecting treasures, pretty leaves, unusual rocks, colorful feathers, to show him on his next visit. She talks about him constantly, Olivia told Dr. Chun during her regular checkup 6 weeks after the fateful wedding weekend. Lucas this, Daddy that. It's as though she's making up for lost time. Children are remarkably adaptable, the doctor observed. And from what you've described, he's making a genuine effort to integrate into her life in a thoughtful way. That consistency is crucial. He is, Olivia acknowledged. And Rebecca too. She's been incredibly supportive of their relationship while maintaining appropriate distance to let them bond. And how are you feeling about all of this? Dr. Chen asked, her perceptive gaze noting more than just Olivia's physical health. Emotionally, I mean. This is a significant adjustment after raising Lily on your own for 4 years. Olivia considered the question carefully. Mostly positive, she said finally. Seeing Lily so happy, watching her connect with Lucas, it's healing something I didn't realize was still broken. But it's also complicated. There are moments when I feel a twinge of something like jealousy, not because I begrudge their relationship, but because I was the only special person in her life for so long. That's perfectly natural, Dr. Chen assured her. You're navigating a complex transition from single parent to co-parent. It's reasonable to have mixed feelings, even while recognizing the benefits for Lily. There's something else too, Olivia admitted, hesitant to voice the thought that had been growing in her mind. Sometimes, watching Lucas with Lily, seeing the man he's become, I find myself wondering what might have been if we'd had better medical care, better communication. If we could have worked through our problems instead of falling apart. Regret is a natural part of processing past decisions, Dr. Chun said gently, especially when new information changes your understanding of what happened. It's not just regret, Olivia clarified. It's more. I'm seeing qualities in Lucas now that I always believed were there, beneath the hurt and anger that consumed him at the end of our marriage. His patience, his thoughtfulness, his capacity for joy in simple moments. The way he listens to Lily as though every word she says matters. The man you fell in love with, Dr. Chen observed. Yes, Olivia acknowledged softly. And it's confusing because he's engaged to someone else, someone kind and generous who's making space in her life for my daughter. I have no right to feel anything beyond gratitude and respect for both of them. Feelings don't operate on principles of rights, Dr. Chen reminded her. They simply are. The important thing is how you choose to act on them, or not act on them, as the case may be. I would never do anything to disrupt what they're building, Olivia said firmly. Rebecca deserves better than that, and frankly, so do I. Whatever Lucas and I once had, it's in the past. We're different people now. Indeed, Dr. Chen agreed. Though sometimes, knowing each other in different seasons of life can create a unique kind of understanding. Just be gentle with yourself as you navigate these complex emotions. And remember that whatever arrangement you create doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to work for Lily and for all of you as imperfect humans doing your best. Those words returned to Olivia frequently over the following weeks as Lucas and Rebecca's relocation to Philadelphia approached. They had found a spacious apartment in a building just 10 blocks from Olivia's, close enough for easy visits, but far enough to maintain separate living spaces and boundaries. Lucas had begun introducing Lily to Rebecca in small doses, an hour at the park, ice cream after a father-daughter outing, a Saturday morning at the farmer's market, and to Olivia's relief, the two had formed a warm, easy rapport. She doesn't try to be my mommy, Lily explained sagely after one such visit. She says she's more like a special friend who loves my daddy and wants to be my friend too. That sounds like a good way to think about it, Olivia agreed, impressed by Rebecca's thoughtful approach to her role in Lily's life. She showed me pictures of her sewing room in Boston, Lily continued. She makes quilts and pillows and curtains. She said maybe I could help her decorate my room at their new apartment. I can pick the colors and everything. That's very kind of her, Olivia said, a small twinge of something like loss flickering through her at the thought of Lily having a room in another home. But she pushed it aside, focusing instead on the joy in her daughter's face. This was what mattered, Lily feeling wanted, included, loved by more people. The day Lucas and Rebecca moved to Philadelphia, Olivia and Lily brought a homemade welcome basket to their new apartment. Fresh bread from the bakery down the street, local honey, a hand-drawn map by Lily showing her favorite neighborhood spots, and a small potted herb garden for their kitchen windowsill. This is incredibly thoughtful, Rebecca said, genuinely touched as she examined each item. Especially your map, Lily. Now we won't get lost in our new neighborhood. I marked the best playground, Lily said importantly. And the ice cream store that has the blue flavor. Blue flavor? Lucas asked, amused. Blue raspberry, Olivia translated. It turns her tongue alarmingly blue, but it's her favorite. Then blue raspberry it shall be for our first official outing as Philadelphia residents, Lucas declared, earning a delighted grin from Lily. As they helped unpack a few essential items and ordered pizza for an impromptu housewarming dinner, Olivia was struck by how natural it felt, the four of them moving around each other in domestic harmony. It wasn't the family configuration any of them had imagined, but there was something quietly wonderful about it nonetheless. Adults who had chosen to prioritize a child's well-being over pride or convention, creating something new from the fragments of what had been broken. Later that evening, as Olivia prepared to take a sleepy Lily home, Lucas walked them to the door while Rebecca tidied up the kitchen. "Thank you," he said quietly, "for everything today and for making this transition so much easier than it could have been. Your generosity in sharing Lily, in welcoming Rebecca, in all of it. I don't take it for granted. She's your daughter too," Olivia replied simply. "And seeing how happy she is with both of you in her life makes any momentary awkwardness worthwhile." Lucas hesitated, then asked the question that seemed to have been on his mind. "And you? Are you happy with this arrangement, truly? Not just accepting it for Lily's sake, but genuinely okay with it?" The question was asked with such sincere concern for her well-being that Olivia found herself answering with complete honesty. "I am. There are moments of adjustment, of course. Times when I wonder what life might have been like if things had gone differently for us. But that's just human nature, looking back at crossroads. What matters is that we're creating something good now, from where we actually are, not where we might have been." Lucas nodded, understanding in his eyes. "I have those moments too," he admitted softly. "Especially when I see you with Lily. Witness the amazing job you've done raising her. But like you said, what matters is now. Building something healthy from where we are." "Exactly," Olivia agreed, grateful for his understanding. As spring turned to summer, their unusual family configuration settled into a comfortable rhythm. Lily spent Wednesdays after school and alternate weekends with Lucas and Rebecca, gradually extending to overnight stays as she grew more comfortable. Lucas attended parent-teacher conferences, doctor's appointments, and dance recitals alongside Olivia, the two of them presenting a united front in their shared commitment to Lily's well-being despite their separate lives. Rebecca, true to her word, maintained a supportive but careful balance, involved enough that Lily felt her genuine care, but never overstepping or attempting to replace Olivia's role as mother. She approached her relationship with Lily as something unique rather than a substitute maternal position, and Olivia found herself increasingly grateful for the other woman's emotional intelligence and generosity of spirit. "We're thinking of having a small wedding in the fall," Rebecca mentioned one afternoon as she and Olivia watched Lily and Lucas building an elaborate sand castle at the beach during a day trip to the Jersey Shore. "Something simple, just close friends and family. We wondered if Lily might like to be the flower girl." "I'm sure she'd be thrilled," Olivia said. "She's been practicing her princess walking ever since you mentioned possibly rescheduling the wedding." Rebecca laughed. "I've noticed. Very regal, especially when she holds her chin just so." She hesitated, then added, "We'd like you to come too, if you're comfortable with that. Not out of obligation, but because you're important to Lily and, well, to us as well." The invitation, offered with such genuine warmth, touched Olivia deeply. 6 months ago, the idea of attending Lucas's wedding would have seemed impossible, either a painful reopening of old wounds or an awkward intrusion. Now, it felt like a natural extension of the relationship they had all been building, centered around Lily, but gradually expanding to include genuine friendship among the adults as well. "I'd be honored," Olivia said sincerely. "Thank you for including me." Rebecca smiled, relief evident in her expression. "I was hoping you'd say that." Lucas wasn't sure if it would be asking too much. "It might have been, once," Olivia acknowledged. "But we're in a different place now, all of us. And I think it would be good for Lily to see that families can take many forms, that adults can move beyond past hurts to create something positive." "That's exactly what Lucas said," Rebecca replied with a smile. "You two still think remarkably alike sometimes." The observation wasn't meant to make Olivia uncomfortable, but she felt a flush rise to her cheeks nonetheless. It was true. Despite the years apart, despite the hurt and misunderstandings, she and Lucas often arrived at the same conclusions about Lily, about parenting, about many things. That underlying compatibility, once the foundation of their marriage, now served them well as co-parents navigating unfamiliar territory. The wedding was held on a crisp October day in a small botanical garden. As promised, it was an intimate affair. No more than 50 guests, simple but elegant decorations, a focus on celebrating the commitment rather than elaborate spectacle. Lily took her flower girl duties with utmost seriousness, practicing for weeks to ensure she scattered rose petals at precisely the right pace down the aisle. Watching Lucas and Rebecca exchange vows, Olivia was surprised to find her overwhelming emotion was genuine happiness for them both. Whatever might have been between her and Lucas belonged to a different time, a different chapter. The man standing at the altar, promising his life and love to Rebecca, was both the Lucas she had once known and someone new, shaped by the intervening years, by his relationship with Rebecca, by becoming a father to Lily. At the reception, after Lily had danced with Lucas standing on his shoes and been thoroughly spoiled with attention from guests charmed by her exuberance, she finally succumbed to exhaustion, falling asleep in a small lounge area created specifically for this eventuality. She was perfect, Lucas said, joining Olivia as she tucked a small blanket around their sleeping daughter. Though I think we'll be finding rose petals in unexpected places for months to come. She was very enthusiastic with her scattering technique. Olivia laughed softly. That's our girl. Never does anything halfway. No, she doesn't. Lucas agreed, his expression softening as he gazed at Lily. She reminds me of you that way. And you? Olivia countered. That focused determination? Pure Lucas Bennett. Poor child, getting the most stubborn traits from both of us. Lucas joked, though pride was evident in his voice. I think she got the best of both of us, actually, Olivia said thoughtfully. Your intelligence, my creativity. Your analytical mind, my emotional intuition. Your drive, my adaptability. A perfect blend, Lucas agreed softly. He hesitated, then added, I hope you know how grateful I am, Olivia. For her, for the amazing job you've done raising her, for allowing me into her life despite our history, for being here today, supporting this new chapter. We've all come a long way from that day at Westfield Estate, Olivia observed. I think we've created something pretty remarkable from what could have been a disaster. We have, Lucas agreed. Though I sometimes wonder. He trailed off, seeming to reconsider his words. Wonder what? Olivia prompted gently. If things had been different. If I had listened when you tried to explain about the endometriosis. If we had worked through that challenge together instead of falling apart. He shook his head ruefully. Pointless speculation, I know. Not entirely pointless, Olivia said softly. I think it's natural to wonder about roads not taken. But I've come to believe that perhaps this was how our story needed to unfold. We weren't ready then. Too young, too caught in our own perspectives. Maybe we needed these years apart to become people who could truly understand and appreciate each other, even if in a different capacity than we once imagined. That's a generous way of looking at it, Lucas said, his expression thoughtful, and probably wise. We can't change the past, but we can choose how we move forward from it. And we've chosen well, I think, Olivia said, gesturing to their sleeping daughter and then toward the reception where Rebecca was chatting with guests. All of us. We have, Lucas agreed, his voice warm with certainty. It's not the path I would have predicted, but I wouldn't trade where we've arrived for anything. As Lucas was called away by the photographer for family photos, Olivia remained beside Lily, gently stroking her daughter's hair. Life rarely followed the neat, predictable path one envisioned. Sometimes it took sharp, painful turns, leading through darkness and confusion before opening into unexpected light. Had anyone told her 5 years ago that she would be attending Lucas's wedding to another woman, with their daughter as flower girl and genuine friendship among all parties, she would have thought it impossible. Yet here they were, creating something beautiful from what had once been broken, building bridges across the chasms of misunderstanding and hurt that had separated them for so long. Rebecca joined her a few minutes later, still radiant in her elegant cream gown. Is our little flower girl completely worn out? She asked, smiling fondly at Lily. Absolutely exhausted, Olivia confirmed. But blissfully happy. She told me this was the best day ever, at least 15 times before she fell asleep. It ranks pretty high on my list too, Rebecca said, sitting carefully beside Olivia. Thank you for being here, for everything you've done to make today special. I know it couldn't have been easy. Easier than you might think, Olivia admitted. Seeing how happy you make Lucas, how wonderful you are with Lily, it's hard to feel anything but grateful that our lives have intersected this way. Rebecca's expression grew thoughtful. When Lucas first told me about you, about your history together, I was worried. Not that he still had feelings for you, but that the pain of your past might overshadow our future. I never imagined we could create this strange, wonderful family configuration where everyone actually gets along. Neither did I, Olivia acknowledged. But I'm glad we have. For Lily's sake, and for our own. For all our sakes, Rebecca agreed, her smile warm and genuine. Now, I should get back to my guests. But would you and Lily like to join us for brunch tomorrow before we leave for our honeymoon? Nothing formal, just a quiet morning together before we go. We'd love that, Olivia said, touched by the inclusion. And Rebecca, congratulations. You make a beautiful bride, and more importantly, you make Lucas happier than I've ever seen him. You both deserve every joy. The simple blessing, offered from the heart, brought tears to Rebecca's eyes. Thank you, she said softly. That means more than you know. 6 months later, on a sunny spring morning, Olivia sat on a park bench watching as Lucas pushed Lily on the swings, their daughter's laughter ringing out across the playground. Rebecca sat beside her, both women enjoying the peaceful moment amid their busy lives. I have some news, Rebecca said hesitantly. We were going to tell you together, but I wanted to speak with you privately first, make sure you're comfortable with it. Olivia turned to her, curious. What is it? I'm pregnant, Rebecca said, a mixture of joy and uncertainty in her expression. It was unexpected. The doctors said my PCOS made natural conception unlikely, but apparently miracles happen. Rebecca, that's wonderful, Olivia exclaimed, genuinely delighted. Lily will be thrilled to be a big sister. You think so? Rebecca asked, relief evident in her voice. We were worried about how she might feel, having to share Lucas's attention. She'll adjust, Olivia assured her. Children are resilient, especially when surrounded by adults who love them. And Lily has always talked about wanting siblings. She'll be over the moon. That's a relief, Rebecca sighed. I was also concerned about you, about how this might change our family dynamic. Our family will simply grow larger, Olivia said with a smile. More love for Lily, more connections. That's something to celebrate, not worry about. As they called Lucas and Lily over to share the news, Olivia watched her daughter's face transform with excitement at the prospect of a baby brother or sister. Lucas's expression, a mixture of joy, gratitude, and quiet emotion as he looked between his wife, his daughter, and Olivia, reflected the extraordinary journey they had all undertaken together. None of them had chosen this path. It had emerged from mistakes, misunderstandings, and pain. Yet somehow, through honesty, forgiveness, and the willingness to put a child's needs above their own hurt, they had created something remarkable. A family defined not by conventional boundaries, but by love, respect, and the shared commitment to nurturing the connections between them. Sometimes, Olivia reflected as they all walked home together, the heaviest secrets become the strongest foundations when finally brought into the light. And sometimes, the most painful silences, when finally broken, give way to conversations that heal not just old wounds, but create unexpected harmony from what once was discord. If this story touched your heart, remember that families come in all shapes and forms. The most beautiful connections often arise from our most difficult challenges. Subscribe to hear more stories of unexpected healing, and share this video with someone who might need to be reminded that even our most painful chapters can lead to surprisingly beautiful conclusions.